In a small valley, hidden among mountains covered in mist, lived an old man named Sojan. His home was barely a wooden cabin, without adornments, without luxury, just enough to shelter him from the cold and the rain. Every morning, Sojan would calmly step outside, breathe the fresh air, pick a few herbs from the forest, and greet the river that wound its way in front of his home. He never seemed to be in a hurry, never seemed to need anything more. While the villagers from nearby towns ran after new clothes, tools, and exotic foods, Sojan continued gathering the same. A little rice, a little firewood, a little tea. And yet, his face shone like the sun at dawn. One afternoon, a young traveler arrived at his door. He carried heavy backpacks, wrinkled maps, and a mind full of dreams and worries. "Master," said the young man, bowing, "I have heard that you possess the secret to a happy life. Could you teach me?" Sojan barely smiled, with the sweetness of one who is not in a rush, and made a simple gesture for him to sit by the fire. Without a word, the old man served 2 cups of tea. One for him, one for the young man, nothing more. The cabin was filled with a warm silence, like a hug. The wind softly blew through the trees, carrying with it an invisible lesson. Sometimes the less you have, the more space there is for peace. The young man observed the cabin. There were no paintings on the walls, no shelves full of books, no decorations that caught the eye. Only the crackling of the fire, the aroma of tea, and the immense calm that seemed to float in the air. Uneasy, he broke the silence. "Do you not wish to have more, master? A bigger house, more clothes, more food, more—" His voice trailed off as if ashamed. Sojan took a slow sip of tea, savoring each nuance, each small gift that the moment offered. Then, with a voice as soft as a falling leaf, he replied, "When you carry too many things, you forget how to walk lightly." The young man lowered his gaze. His backpack weighed heavily, not just on his shoulders, but also on his mind. Sojan, seeing this, offered him a small but warm smile, like a lantern in the dark. "When the bowl is filled to the brim," the old man whispered, "it can no longer receive the fresh water from the spring." And again they fell silent. But this time, the young man felt that the silence spoke more than 1,000 words. It was as if the night itself were teaching him that sometimes, leaving empty space is the purest way to find abundance. The fire crackled, sending small sparks into the dark night. The young man, still clutching his heavy backpack, stared at the simple wooden floor beneath his feet. He felt a different discomfort, not in his body, but in his heart, as if, for the first time, he realized everything he carried without needing it. Sojan, with calm movements, took a small clay bowl and placed it in front of the young man. Then he poured water slowly until the bowl was full, and kept pouring. The water overflowed, soaking the wooden table. Without saying a word, the old man set the jug aside and leaned back, watching the fire. The young man understood. Sometimes, continuing to add only causes the essential to spill over and be lost. With an awkward smile, he took off the backpack. His shoulders sighed with relief. His back stopped struggling against the invisible weight that had accompanied him for so long. For the first time in a long while, the young man felt he could truly breathe. He didn't need more. Maybe he needed less. The night advanced slowly, like a serene river under the moonlight. Sojan closed his eyes, letting the stillness embrace him. The young man, now free from his heavy backpack, sat in silence, simply breathing. Each inhalation was deeper, each exhalation lighter. The old man opened his eyes and, with a voice low as a whisper carried by the wind, said, "When you learn to let go, you discover that you already had everything you were searching for." The young man let those words fall upon him, soft but firm, like raindrops on dry earth. He didn't need to fully understand them. He only needed to feel them. There, in that small cabin empty of luxuries, he found a wealth he had never carried in his pockets or stored in his trunks. An inner space that did not weigh, a silence that did not frighten, a happiness so light that he could barely name it. The night breeze gently caressed the paper windows, as if wanting to enter and share the peace that dwelled within. In his heart, the young man felt a seed plant its roots. Perhaps the secret was not to accumulate more, but to deeply love the little that one has. The dawn began to slide over the valley, tinting the sky with a soft blue. The fire in the cabin was dwindling, and only embers remained, flickering like tired fireflies. The young man stood up slowly, feeling his body light like never before. He looked at Sojan, who smiled in silence, without the need for noisy goodbyes or grand gestures. "Thank you, master," whispered the young man, bowing deeply. Sojan barely nodded, as if he knew that words, too, sometimes are too much. The young man picked up his backpack, but before leaving, he opened the flap and began taking things out. Maps he no longer needed, books he no longer sought to read, heavy memories he no longer wished to carry. He left it all aside, next to the cabin. He was left with just a blank notebook, a light coat, and a small canteen of water. As he walked down the path back to the world, his step was different. He no longer hurried. He no longer fled. He no longer sought to fill imaginary emptiness. He simply walked, and with each step, he carried with him the invisible lesson of that night. The more space he left, the easier it was to hear the song of life. The path unfolded before him, lined with whispering trees and humble flowers that asked not to be seen. The young man moved forward, without haste, with eyes open in a new way. He was not seeking grand landscapes or hidden wonders. Each stone, each leaf, each shadow felt enough, perfect in its simplicity. As he walked, he realized something curious. The world had not changed. It was he who now saw differently. Without the weight of his old needs, everything seemed clearer, brighter. The sun timidly peeked between the mountains, bathing the path in gold. The young man stopped for a moment to observe it, without trying to capture it, without desiring more than what already was. He smiled. He understood that life, like the dawn, did not need to be adorned or improved. It only needed to be embraced, just as it came, with its silent and perfect beauty. Less desire, more presence. Less hurry, more life. The young man continued on his way, now light as a breeze. Each step was a small celebration, each breath a simple gift. He passed by villagers running with bags, boxes, and worries, but he did not feel the need to join that race. Inside him, something had changed forever. He no longer sought to have it all. Now he sought to be part of it all. He remembered Sojan's unspoken words, the lessons hidden in the silence, in the fire, in the tea served with calm. He remembered how, in the apparent nothingness, he had found the whole. Life, he understood, was not meant to be accumulated, but to be lived moment by moment with a cleared heart. And as he moved forward, he felt that with each thing he let go of, each desire he abandoned, more space was left for light, for wonder, for true happiness. The secret was in simplicity. True wealth was the lightness of being. When the young man reached the top of a small hill, he stopped. From there, he could see the entire valley stretched out like an immense tapestry woven with greens, rivers, and paths. The world was vast, free, and perfect just as it was. He did not need to add anything to it, nor take anything away. He smiled, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath, letting the wind play with his hair, letting the sun caress his face. In that moment, without a backpack, without burdens, without anxieties, He felt something he had never felt before, a peace so deep that it did not need to be explained. It was as if the entire universe whispered softly in his ear, "Less is more. Less is freedom. Less is pure love." And so, with a heart as light as the sky, the young man continued on his path, knowing that he did not need to go anywhere special, because he was already home, there within himself, in the silent vastness of his own being.